and I found it, and I couldn't believe my good luck at finding this, and it cost me a little or nothing to buy it. And I took it home and I watched it, and I just thought it was an awesome slasher. A lot of people prefer the second and third one, and I'm going to get into that here in a second. But I thought that the straight ahead horror aspect really worked for the original film. If they had had too much humor in it, I don't think it would have worked as well. I thought Felissa Rose was excellent as the young Angela. She played that part of the picked on kid very, very well. She doesn't have a lot of she doesn't say a lot in the film. If you really want to get down to nuts and bolts, she doesn't do a whole lot in this film. But just her demeanor within the film, and the way she handles herself, and the ultimate build-up, all that stuff combined makes this a really good slasher film. And now moving on to the effects work. I love the effects in this. There's a guy, the cook actually, that gets very badly burned when a very large pan of boiling water is dumped on him. And before I'd seen this movie, I had never seen an effect quite like this, where you actually see blisters puff up and burst on camera. And I'm sure it was more of a simple effect than it looked like it was, but I really like it. I liked it then, and I like it now. There was an effect where a guy is stung to death by bees. That one wasn't quite as good as some of them. There's an effect that has to do with a curling iron being inserted into a certain orifice of the body, which I won't talk about. But you'll just have to see the film to get to. I don't want to spoil it for you, you know. That's just one of those things where you kind of have to let somebody watch it and experience it for themselves. And of course the ending, which I won't give away, it's probably not as shocking today as it was back in 1983, but man, it still works. And the very ending shot is just something that you will never forget after you've seen it. Trust me on this. Even for those of you that have seen The Crying Game, this even tops The Crying Game. And for those of you that have seen The Crying Game, you'll know what I'm talking about. So anyway, that's the original Sleepaway Camp. Moving on to Sleepaway Camp Part 2, Unhappy Campers. They changed Angela's in this film. Angela, of course, is supposed to be older. She is now a camp counselor at a camp, and she is played by Pamela Springsteen, who is Bruce Springsteen's sister. Yes, that is the Bruce Springsteen, the singer. It's his sister. Pamela Springsteen does an awesome job. It's an upgrade to the Angela character. It works, and as good as Felissa Rose was in the original, I'm not so sure that at that time she could have pulled off the characterization that Pamela Springsteen does. Pamela Springsteen added something to the character. She added another layer. Is this wacky, sort of offbeat humor that really, really works, because with the first film, a lot of it was so serious that I think Michael Simpson, the director, had the right idea, and also the writer also had the right idea by writing in so much humor into the story, because I think you could have very well saturated this franchise with too much seriousness, and I think it would have spoiled the whole thing. So Michael Simpson, the director, made an excellent choice, I'll say that again, for allowing Pamela Springsteen to add her own brand of humor and kind of letting her go with that, and allowing a writer of a pretty high caliber, because he had kids pretty well down pat. Kids can be horribly mean sometimes, and I think he got that, and I think both the director and the writer got that at that time, and it's still true. You know, kids probably have more than likely gotten worse. These mean kids are even meaner now than they were back in the 80s when these films were made. But for that time period, it worked. There were all kinds of influences at that time. Of course, there's still drugs, there's still alcohol, there's still people having sex. But I think a drug issue was a really big thing at that time. Safe sex was starting to be a big thing at that time. And there were a lot of plays on all that stuff, on the drugs and the sex and the alcohol and all those things combined. But it had that humorous edge to it. For instance, Angela's character sings while she is killing people, and just kind of gives these one-liners that I really wasn't used to seeing in films, other than if it was a Freddy Krueger film or something like that. You would have a lot of one-liners. But by making the Angela character have this sense of humor as she's killing people, and she was just a regular person. She wasn't any kind of supernatural entity. She wasn't a severely burned character who hops in and out of people's dreams like Freddy Krueger. She was a human being, albeit a crazy human being, but she was still a human being. So to see her pop off these one-liners and then douse somebody with gasoline and catch them on fire, I hate to say it, but it was an interesting take on the whole idea of horror film franchises at that time. And again, the effects work was excellent. The characters really worked. Even the characters that you love to hate. Everything worked in this film. And Michael Simpson should be congratulated on creating a new persona for one of the best summer camp slasher film franchises. Okay, so again, that's Sleepaway Camp 2, another definite summer camp slasher to pick up. Okay, and the last one is Sleepaway Camp 3, Teenage Wasteland. Again, this one was directed by Michael Simpson. I believe it had the same writer. This film and part 2 were practically filmed back to back, which is something you don't see that often. Usually they'll wait at least 2 to 3 years between sequels before they make another one. I don't think even Friday the 13th could be guilty of that, of filming things back to back. But Michael Simpson definitely not feel guilty about filming these back to back, because I think it really worked. I think if too much time had been placed between the second and third sequels, you might have had something awful like Return to Sleepaway Camp.